tonight on Y News. Malacanang challenges the international research group Human Rights Watch to prove allegations against the Duterte administration's war on drugs. Press Secretary Martin Andanar is stripped of his functions to speak for the president after the reorganization in the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO. Fish pen operators warn to file charges should the total demolition of their structures in Laguna Lake push through.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, advises the public not to accept Uber or Grab cars without vehicle case number. Animal welfare groups call on owl cafes in Japan that put the birds' health at risk. And to know why sitting down may not be as bad for you as you think.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Malacanang dares the Human Rights Watch to support their allegations against Duterte administration's war on drugs with strong evidence. Rosa Licos will tell us why.
Presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella has questioned the reports of the New York-based Human Rights Watch on the Philippine government's drug war. To the group, Undersecretary Abella poses the question, when has war on criminality ever been a war against humanity? In a statement, Undersecretary Abella said the Duterte administration's war on drugs is a war precisely to protect humanity from a modern-day evil, which is drug addiction. He also said allegations such as policemen planting evidence in crime scenes and being behind vigilante killings should be substantiated by solid evidence, eyewitness accounts, and sworn statements or affidavits, and should be proven in a competent court. Otherwise, such claims are mere hearsay. On the other hand, the Philippine National Police is ready to cooperate in investigations and reiterates that it does not tolerate illegal activities committed by their personnel. But the PNP spokesperson said only 682 cases of the reported 7,000 killings are drug-related, and only 24 of them are being investigated and filed appropriate charges because of alleged human rights violations.
Tingnan po natin yung kaso na yan, imbestigahan po natin kung talaga pong mapapatunayan na meron pong pagkakamali yung pong nagsagawa ng operation, then let's file cases against them and do not generalize and cripple na we have the 48,000 people arrested alive na ito yung resulta ng ating pong kampanya sa illegal na droga.
Abella also said the group's claim that the Philippines is suffering from human rights calamity is thoughtless and irresponsible because it is only during the Duterte administration that the magnitude of the drug problem in the country has been exposed, resulting in the surrender of more than 1 million drug users and pushers and construction of rehabilitation centers. Meanwhile, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo called the reports of the Human Rights Watch lies.
Dapat ang title nun, License to Lie. Bakit? Puro naman kasi sinungalingan niya.
Regarding the issue that President Rodrigo Duterte can be held liable for crime against humanity because of his anti-drug war, Attorney Panelo said that these allegations are mere fabrications which have been used against him long before his presidency.
The accusations against the president have been there since he was mayor. They've been investigating, the same group have been saying that, and they have not filed any charge against the president when he was still mayor. So, sa aking tingin, puro fabrication, paninira lang sa presidente natin.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The PNP says an increase in drug-related killings is inevitable once the PNP resumes its anti-drug operations. They assure, however, to carefully choose upright policemen to man the operation. Grace Cassin will tell us why.
According to PNP Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa, he cannot promise that the PNP's return to the drug war will not be bloody. De La Rosa says this is unavoidable since suspect resist against arresting officers.
It depends. Kung ang resistance ay if they resist, if they want it to be bloody, then we will give it to them. Pero pag they do not endanger the lives of our operatives, then why bloody?
However, De La Rosa assures that they will carefully choose upright policemen to man the new group that will conduct the anti-drug operations. According to PNP Chief, he would prefer neophyte policemen in the operation than police who are involved in corruption and anomaly.
Marami ang mga new blood na yun na lang, lacking in skills, lacking in experience, but with a pure heart, equipped with a fervor to work for the country.
QCPD Director Police Chief Superintendent Guillermo Eleazar is supportive on the revival of the PNP operation against drugs, as pushers and users are back in their business.
Sa report kasi na receive natin through text message, diretso sa akin. At the same time, pati na rin yung mga feedback coming from the barangay officials in the community, particularly sa punong barangay, talagang nagkaroon, na-witness nila yung pamayag pag-ulit.
For now, De La Rosa cannot tell when the new launching of their group will be. Now they have the blessing of President Duterte. Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Spokesperson Ernesto Abella will now be the official spokesman of Malacanang, while Secretary Martin Andanar will focus on the departmental affairs of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO. Joyce Balancio will tell us why.
After the internal reorganization of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, Presidential Communications Office Secretary Martin Andanar will be speaking less to the media because he will now focus on departmental affairs of the PCOO. Specifically, Andanar will focus on PCOO and its attached agencies like the Philippine Information Agency, National Information Bureau, and others. Meanwhile, Undersecretary Ernesto Abella is now the formal presidential spokesperson of the Malacanang, especially on controversial issues. Yusek Abella says he will be now in charge of messaging and content of press conferences and media releases. This after a series of conflicts and clashes between Secretary Andanar and the members of the media. Last night, Andanar and the Senate media met in a dinner a week after the secretary accused the Senate reporters of being offered $1,000 to cover the press conference of retired police Arturo Las Cañas on the Davao Death Squad. The Senate journalists were caught off guard when Senator Pimentel secretly invited Andanar to the dinner.
Una sa lahat, thank you for coming. No? And I'm glad Secretary Andanar is here upon my invitation para mag-share naman tayo ng at least one meal with the Secretary and the Senate media. In the hope that, I can patch things up.
Senate media did not comment and proceeded with asking Pimentel some questions.
This is my effort to re-establish good relations between the Secretary and the Senate media. Ano tanong?
Sir, yung death penalty naman.
Okay.
Lumusot na sa second.
Sa House? Oh, okay.
In a statement, Andanar said he deferred to the Senate President and attended the dinner only as a guest. It can be remembered that the Senate media demanded a public apology from Andanar if he could not prove the alleged bribery. Andanar then refused to apologize, saying that the information came from an intel source. Aside from the Senate media, the Secretary also encountered conflict with the Malacanang Press Corp and had a heated debate with a print reporter during a press conference. Joyce Balancio, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
One of the provisions included in the death penalty bill is the right of the Public Attorney's Office and the Solicitor General to appeal and request the President to stop a death sentence. Monok Son will tell us why.
The Public Attorney's Office is relieved to know that an amendment has been included in Section 8 of the Death Penalty Bill that allows the PAO and Solicitor General to appeal to the President should they want to stop a death penalty from being carried out. PCOO Chief Attorney Persida Acosta says that they are thankful that the bill has a safeguard, especially for falsely accused people.
So merong safeguard para kung may duda ang taong bayan na hindi dapat mabitay isang tao ay mapipigilan ang pagbitay.
Kabayan Representative Harry Roque cited a study conducted by the Supreme Court saying that a death sentence had been mistakenly given to death row convicts before.
Dahil nagkaroon na po ng pag-aaral ang Korte Suprema nung panahon na meron tayong parusang bitay, 71%, 7 sa 10 pinataw na death penalty ay merong pagkakamali na gawa ang hukuman.
Roque said the death penalty must not be implemented until there is no decent justice system in the country. According to the lawmaker, the moral ascendancy of the Philippines may be lost if the death penalty bill becomes a law.
Ito po isang napakalakas na argumento laban sa death penalty. No? Kung nais nating matulungan yung mga kababayan natin na ibibitay, wag po nating ibalik ang death penalty dahil po pwede nating sabihin sa iba't ibang mga bansa na sa ating bayan wala tayong death penalty at on humanitarian grounds sana itigil yan.
Currently, there are 12 million OFWs around the globe and 80 of them are in the death row. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
There is a big chance that the House version of the death penalty will pass in the Senate as well, according to Senate President Coco Pimentel. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
A one-crime death penalty law would have a bigger chance of passing the Senate than a death penalty law with a lot of enumerated crimes.
If it will be limited to high-level drug trafficking, the House version of the death penalty reimposition bill might also be passed in Senate, according to Senate President Aquilino Pimentel III. This after the lower house passed in second reading the said controversial bill. Pimentel says while there is split in numbers in Senate, there is high chance that those who expressed openness will be convinced to support the measure.
It has a chance. A close fight. I'm predicting maybe anywhere from 14 versus 10 or 10 versus 14. Personal stand ko open. Marami nga nagsasabi doon na if you limit the number of crimes to 1, which we will consider as the most heinous as of the moment, then they are open to be convinced.
Pimentel adds the country can opt not to let our international commitments bind us from passing the measure.
Kaya na natin i-justify yan na we never surrendered sovereignty. The treaty cannot tie our hands na wala tayong magawa in our when we have a strategy on how to fight crime, when we have a strategy on how to improve our society. We should not admit that a treaty ties our hands.
Senator Cynthia Villar is among those who are vocal on supporting the House version of the bill. She says it is time that those involved in drug offenses be faced with capital punishment.
If it will be limited to drug lords, it will be okay with me. Mabigat kasi ang drugs. So, kasi we don't want to live in a country that our children are all drug addicts. So it's a different issue altogether. It's very bad for the country.
The minority bloc, meanwhile, is solid in opposing the measure. Assistant Minority Floor Leader Senator Bam Aquino says the passing of the bill here in the Senate should not be rushed and should undergo proper debates.
In fairness naman, hindi lang to move of the minority. I think this is a move of the whole Senate to make sure na itong issue na to na napakahalaga, maraming implikasyon sa ating lipunan, mabibigyan ng tamang pansin at tamang panahon.
Aquino says those poor Filipinos who cannot afford to pay lawyers will be the victims of death penalty. He adds there is no proof also that capital punishment is an efficient deterrent to crimes. Meanwhile, Senator Risa Hontiveros is confident that the Senate reorganization will not affect the stand of each senator on the issue. She hopes that her colleagues will cross party lines to hinder the passage of the measure. In the Senate, the bill is still in the Justice Committee level. It will go through hearings first before it can be sponsored on the floor. There are still no clear numbers on who are supporting or opposing, as many have also expressed openness to the measure. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has warned the public against Colorum Uber and Grab cars as well as other transport network vehicle services. Aga Kakbay will tell us why.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB has advised commuters that before riding an Uber or Grab car, make sure that the vehicle's case number appears on your booking. LTFRB board member attorney Eileen Lizada says the agency considers Transport Network Vehicle Service Units colorum or illegal if there's no case number on the booking details.
So ngayon, nandiyan na pangalan nila, plate number nila, sasakyan. Ang kulang pa rin, yung case number. That's the way we can check colorum ng mga TNCs. So if you do not have a case number, that means to say, dumaan ka lang sa step 1, nagpa-accredit ka lang sa TNC mo. Hindi ka pumunta doon sa step 2 na dapat registered ka sa LTFRB. Kasi kung registered ka sa LTFRB, you went through the process, kukuha ka ng insurance.
Lizada says they have set a meeting with Grab, Uber, and other transport network companies to remind them of the terms and conditions stated in the Memorandum Circular 2015-016. The agency argues that it is improper for Uber and Grab to incorporate their respective TNC mobile applications on the driver's smartphone. It is the reason why most drivers are not aware of the procedure of securing a case number first from LTFRB. LTFRB calls on the public to report any Uber or Grab driver who operates without a proper case number. Once apprehended, colorum units without case number will be impounded for 3 months and the driver will be fined off up to 200,000 pesos. Aga Kaakba, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte leads a groundbreaking ceremony of the Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway or CCLEX today. The more than 8-kilometer-long bridge linking Cordova and Cebu City will serve as an alternative route going to Mactan Cebu International Airport. The 200 billion peso project is considered as one of the big infrastructure projects under the Duterte administration.
Two members of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front arrested by police last Tuesday have been turned over by the Police Regional Office 9 to the MILF Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities. Jonana will tell us why.
Siblings Aljay Mohammed and Murad Mohammed Abdul Karim were arrested by PNP after attempting to prevent policemen from serving a warrant of arrest to their father Yasin Karim alias Imam, who is a commander of MILF in Barangay Tampalan, Alicia, Zamboanga, Sibugay. The suspect was wanted for 2 counts of murder and alleged involvement in kidnap for ransom. The two, who were members of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, have been turned over to the Police Regional Office 9 today. The turnover was led by PRO 9 Director Police Chief Superintendent Billy Beltran and Malik Karil, member of the Moro Islamic Liberation Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities. It was also witnessed by some members of the International Monitoring Team from Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and the representative of the Ad Hoc Joint Action Group, which is a cooperative mechanism between the government and the MILF. Director Beltran says the siblings, who were also minors, were not part of the illegal activities of their father.
Review namin yung case, wala naman silang kinalaman talaga doon sa insidente. Okay? Yung act ng pagtatanggol doon sa ama during that time, kuminsan pwede nating hindi na naman ganong ka-seryoso. At yun naman ay normal sa isang anak.
MILF meanwhile thanked the police, saying that the government is really sincere in enforcing the mechanism of peace process in Mindanao.
Actually, may proseso to Hindi naman natin pwedeng basta-basta na lang kunin o pagsabihan sila na ibigay nyo sa amin. Sinusunod natin yung proseso kasi may napagkasunduan sa agreement. Both MILF at saka yung GPS tungkol sa mga ganitong pangyayari.
Aside from the turnover, the two minors were also given equipment they can use for their livelihood, like machines for their boats. John Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of National Defense admits that the continuous communication of the families of kidnapped victims with the Abu Sayyaf group, despite the government's existing no ransom policy, affects the military's efforts to neutralize the bandit group. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
Department of National Defense or DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana in a statement read by DND spokesman Arsenio Andolong says he condemns the Abu Sayyaf group's inhumane killing of 70-year-old German national Jürgen Kantner. He vows to go after the ASG in accordance with the law. Director Andolong says Abu Sayyaf has 31 hostages in total. These include 12 Vietnamese, 6 Filipinos, 1 Dutch national, 7 Indonesians, and 5 Malaysians.
What we can assure them and the whole world is that we are going after these animals with the full force of the law. They will feel the wrath of the entire Filipino nation through the might of its armed forces.
The DND Secretary appeals to local community leaders in ASG strongholds not to sympathize with the members of the rebel group so authorities could neutralize them.
May mga ibang tumutulong sa kanila kaya at maaari dapat wag tigilan na nila yun. At kailangan ito, lahat tayo nagtutulong-tulong eh. Yun ang problema. May mga support structure din sila among the public and that has to be addressed.
Andolong emphasized that the government will stand by its no ransom policy. However, he stresses the problem in terms of a third party remains, citing as example the families of the ASG captives who directly negotiate with the rebel group.
They are on the move and I think it is problematic on their part to dispose of the remains at the moment. In the past, what they have done is iniiwan nila somewhere tapos i-anunsyo nila. But since they are on the move, hindi nila magawa at the moment.
As of today, DND has no information yet on the whereabouts of the remains of the beheaded German national. Defense officials also believe the bandit group is having difficulties moving due to the government's intensified operations against terrorists. Meanwhile, Joint Task Force Sulu Commander Major General Carlito Galvez Jr. says the operations against the ASG will not stop until the captives are rescued. Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
The Department of Justice has started the preliminary investigation on the criminal complaint in relation to the close-up concert tragedy in Pasay City last year. Meanwhile, a lawyer for one of the victims' family is looking at the possibility of impleading more respondents. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice started a preliminary probe on the complaint filed against Unilever executives and organizers of the close-up concert in Pasay City in May last year. The respondents are facing charges for violation of Article 365 of the Revised Penal Code or criminal negligence over the tragedy wherein 5 concert goers are killed after ingesting drug-laced drinks. During today's hearing, the complainants and witnesses reaffirm their respective affidavits. Unilever also sent their lawyer who refused to grant an interview. The mother of one of the victims says she can't say if they should be happy with the progress of the case since they don't want more persons to suffer over the tragic incident.
Mahirap po hindi ko talaga alam kung anong nararamdaman. Kasi parang babalik na naman po kami. Alalahanin naman po namin yung araw na nangyari po yung hindi maganda. Pero maganda naman po dahil ito po na-finalize na po yung kaso, na-i-file na po. Pero sa amin ho kasi kahit anong mangyari, wala na po yung anak.
Their lawyer eyes the inclusion of more respondents in the charges before the next hearing on March 17.
There's a probability that we are going to amend the complaint so that some other corporate officials who are not included either from Unilever, from the activation group, and the other corporations involved should be also, on our view, should be held also accountable criminally. Hindi ko sinasabi na na-overlook ng NBI, but as private prosecutors, to bolster our case, it's our right and prerogative to amend the complaint.
The NBI previously stated that Unilever and close-up executives are liable for the tragedy since they should have ascertained that the organizers and security agency contracted for the concert are capable of detecting and preventing the entry of illegal drugs to the concert venue. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Social Security System or SSS pensioners will start receiving tomorrow the additional 1,000 peso increase in their monthly benefits. SSS Chairman Amado Valdez says pensioners will receive 3,000 pesos this March, which covers the months of January and February. However, the distribution will be divided into 3 tranches. The first 1,000 pesos will be given tomorrow, while the remaining amount for February and March payouts will be distributed on March 10 and March 17. Starting April, the additional 1,000 peso increase will be incorporated into the monthly pension of pensioners. Companies involved in the smuggling of counterfeit cigarettes with fake tax stamps in 5 storage houses in Pampanga might face tax evasion charges. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Bureau of Customs or BOC is now determining the identity of individuals involved in the smuggling of fake cigarettes and BIR tax stamps. Authorities discovered the fake items during a raid in 5 storage houses in San Simon Industrial Park in Pampanga yesterday.
They're also liable for the deficiency excise taxes due on these cigarettes, together with surcharges and penalties. Right now, only the sub-lessee who signed the contract with the owners is directly liable.
BOC says the involved company might face tax evasion charges for smuggling into the country 11,044 master cases of fake cigarettes and for not paying taxes worth 215 million pesos.
Ang isang master case, yun yung boxes na nakikita nyo, 50 ang laman yan na rims, no? So, computed at 73,000 master cases, nasa 1.1 billion excise tax ang nawawala. That's pag bumaba yan sa kalsada, yan supposed to be revenue ng gobyerno.
According to BOC's Special Studies and Project Development Committee, the cigarettes are considered due to its substandard ingredients. The tag and reader is being used by the Bureau of Internal Revenue to determine if a tax stamp is authentic or not. A tax stamp is authentic if green light appears on the reader. If it's fake, a red light will appear. BOC meanwhile clarifies that they have no intention to single out anyone in their plan to file a case.
We really have to conduct a deeper investigation to this, and of course, the due process will be accorded to the other party.
The agency already has a name of those involved in the said smuggling. However, it says it still need to study the appropriate charges it will file against the smugglers. It will also have to verify first the possible names from the documents they gathered during their raid in Pampanga. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Bureau of Customs.
The government's dismantling operations in Laguna Lake might lead to filing of charges by fish pen operators. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Fish pen operators say if the Laguna Lake Development Authority or LLDA will push through with the total demolition of their structures, they will seek the court's help. They insist that their operations are legal, thus they have the right to do business in the area. 50 hectares of fish pen pays around 300,000 pesos a year to LLDA. The government earns around 98 million pesos yearly from fish pens and cages in the lake, operators say.
Well, give me the reason. You have to tell me the reason why you are removed and give us a valid reason. If the fish pen industry is really causing pollution, then you have the right to remove us. Pero in all the studies at presentations ng LLDA, the real cause of pollution are the industries, domestic waste. Siguro ang nagagali lang sa amin is 1%.
They claim the dismantling of the structures would leave 80,000 people depending on the lake without livelihood. The LLDA has initially issued a moratorium or suspension of permits to fish pen operators to give the lake the time to heal from pollution. However, the operators say they should not be blamed for the pollution. They point out that desiltation is caused by deforested mountains due to subdivision development.
Pagdating ng tag-araw, pasok yung salt water, lilinaw yung tubig, magkakaroon ng photosynthesis, mabubuha yung mga algae. Yun yung kinakain ng mga bangos, naturally. Walang feeding yung Laguna Lake.
Even the fishermen are in favor of totally dismantling the lake. They noted 150,000 kilograms of fish from the Laguna Lake are being sold to markets in Metro Manila and nearby areas. Bulacan and Pangasinan could not match the Laguna Lake's fish supply, which may result into rising fish prices.
Ang problema po namin dito, kung magkakaroon po ng sakuna sa lawa, saan kami sisilong sa laot? Kung zero fish pen at moratorium na 1 taon, kung may 10 operator po na sinasabi silang malalaki na mawawala sa lawa, 1,000 pong mangingisda na nagmamay-ari po ng cages ang mawawala sa lawa.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, is continuously searching for the 10-year-old girl who fell into the Pasig River yesterday. Michael Miguel will tell us why.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, has been looking for missing Giselle Ven Pilionde, a 10-year-old resident of Poblacion, Makati, for more than 24 hours already. Giselle and her friends had been playing at the riverbank near the Mandaluyong Bridge when she fell into the Pasig River.
10 years old siya. Siguro mga 4 to 5 na mga children na naglalaro along the yung seawall po. Yung seawall ng Ilog Pasig. Then tumatalon-talon sila. Pagtalon po niya, nag-shoot siya dun sa river mismo. Then nakita ng mga tao doon na nag-ano pa yung mga kamay niya, nagtatawag ng help. Then mga siguro in a seconds nawala na yung bata.
Based on PCG's report, residents immediately reported the incident to the Coast Guard, who immediately responded with a search operation.
Nagpadala po kaagad ang Philippine Coast Guard ng mga scuba diver team, which is the Special Operations Group, at nag-conduct kaagad ng underwater search operations.
Giselle's mother, Ruth Nazario, is also part of the search and rescue team. PCG hopes to immediately find the missing child. The Coast Guard has already sought the help of other agencies to fast-track the search.
Yung mga stakeholders, yung mga vessel transiting within the vicinity of Ilog Pasig na to be on the lookout. Kung meron man silang mapansin with regards dun sa victim, so better to report at the nearest Philippine Coast Guard.
The PCG says they will continue the underwater search and rescue operation until the missing child is found. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
Residents in a barangay in Bulacan are thankful to UNTV and members Church of God International. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
UNTV and its partners in public service, led by Members Church of God International, rendered a free medical and dental mission activity in Barangay Ligas in Malolos, Bulacan. Barangay Ligas has 5,000 residents who are mostly poor. Due to lack of financial resources, they can hardly seek medical attention. That's why Barangay Ligas residents are very thankful for the assistance of the station.
Maramdaman ko yung sakit niya mga 2001, ganyan, dumabo na mata ko. Malaking tulong po. Dahil meron ganito pong medical mission, hindi po kami makapagpa-check up sa ospital. Kaya kakapusan po ng pera namin.
Nagpapasalamat ko po kami sa Diyos dahil may ganitong medical mission, naabot kami ng mga grasya ng medical mission. Marami po salamat at ako'y nabunutan ng ngipin. Wala na akong mararamdaman sakit ng ngipin sa aking katawan.
Over 1,200 residents benefited from the free medical, pedia, optical, dental and laboratory services and availed of free medicines. Free haircut, massage and pregnancy tests were also available. In addition, some residents grabbed the opportunity to consult their legal problems. The group's free medical and dental mission activity is yearly conducted in the area. It started in 2013 as a response to the request of Ligas Kooperatiba ng Bayan sa Pagpapaunlad or LKBP.
Kami nagpapasalamat sa Diyos dahil naging kasangkapan sila Brother Eli at Brother Daniel na hindi lang pang spiritual ang kanilang tinuturo pero mga ganitong kaganapan ay napaka-importante sa aming mga nasasakupan.
Leslie Longbowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Coming up, animal welfare groups in Japan call on owl cafes in Japan that put the birds' health at risk.
And the BOC Transformers and the Judiciary Mages will meet on Sunday to battle on the hard court for the third spot of UNTV Cup Season 5.
More from My News after this break. Owl cafes in Japan put birds' health at risk, according to an animal welfare group. Danny Tigson will tell us why.
Owls plopped off their feathers and preen beneath the stroking fingers of customers at Owl Village, one of many owl cafes that have popped up around Japan amid the nation's pet cafe boom. But behind the squeals of delighted children and the popularity that has the cafe fully booked cafes, most days lurks a much darker story of careless treatment that may endanger the animals, activists say. Some customers who had just visited the cafe in Tokyo's Harajuku Entertainment District show some concerns for the welfare of the birds.
Certainly, I think any situation when you have an animal in captivity, whether it's in a zoo or whether it's as a pet, there can be situations where it's mistreated and there can be situations where they're treated very well, albeit in a different way than they might be sort of treated or living as they were in the wild. But so I think there's certainly a role for some oversight.
Just disrupting the natural sleep cycles of owls, which are nocturnal, and tying their feet to perches, as many cafes do, can constitute animal abuse.
動物虐待というと叩いたり蹴ったりっていうことが頭に浮かぶと思うんですけれども、動物虐待でそれだけじゃやっぱりないんですよね。そこにずっと拘束し続けるということもやはり動物虐待の一種ですし。
The situation for owls is especially difficult since they are birds of prey used to hunting in expansive habitats at night. Their keen sense of hearing and vision are also poorly adapted to dealing with the brightness and noise of crowded cafes.
1年勤めていた中で7羽が死んだというのが死亡率がとても高いというところとかもかなりショッキングな内容でしたね。はい。
The problem has worsened in recent years as the cafes have seen a surge in popularity with both domestic and foreign tourists, leading to a rapid proliferation of cafes with lax rules. Across Japan, owl cafes are experiencing a boom in popularity. In Harajuku, one of Tokyo's many entertainment districts, there are over 5 separate owl cafes operating. Danny Tigson, UNTV News and Rescue, Tokyo, Japan.
Malaysia will cancel visa-free entry for North Koreans entering the country starting March 6, according to state news agency Bernama, citing the country's deputy prime minister. North Koreans will be required to obtain a visa before entering Malaysia for national security reasons. The move comes 2 weeks after Kim Jong-nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was killed at the Kuala Lumpur airport with a toxic nerve agent. South Korea and the US say he was assassinated by agents of the North Korean regime.
Scientists in Canada had discovered a type of microfossil similar to the bacteria that thrive today around seafloor hydrothermal vents, believed to represent the oldest known evidence of life on Earth. Kim Pamintuan will tell us why.
The fossils from the Hudson Bay shoreline in northern Quebec in Canada, near the Nestapuka Islands, lend credence to the hypothesis that hydrothermal vents spewing hot water may have been the cradle of life on Earth relatively soon after the planet formed, the researchers said.
Tiny filaments and tubes made of a form of iron oxide or rust formed by the microbes were found encased in layers of quartz that experts have determined to be between 3.77 billion and 4.28 billion years old, according to the study published in the journal Nature. The researchers expressed confidence the fossils were formed by organisms, saying no non-biological explanation was plausible. It was primordial microbes like those described in the study that set in motion the evolutionary march toward complex life and eventually the appearance of humans 200,000 years ago. The scientists said the primordial microbes' structure closely resembled modern bacteria that dwell near iron-rich hydrothermal vents. They believed that, like their modern counterparts, they were iron eaters. The rock's composition was consistent with a deep-sea vent environment.
Got it. We've got the oldest fossils. This is exciting. The oldest fossils on the planet. It relates us to our origin. I mean, this is one of the reasons for intelligent life to evolve.
Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago, and the oceans appeared about 4.4 billion years ago. If the fossils are indeed 4.28 billion years old, that would suggest an almost instantaneous emergence of life after ocean formation, Dodd said.
The fossils appear to be older than any other previously discovered evidence of life. For example, other scientists last year described 3.7 billion-year-old fossilized microbial mats called stromatolites from Greenland. Kim Pimentel, UNTV News and Rescue, Toronto, Canada.
An Australian study has found no link between total sitting time and increased risk of diabetes and concludes that sitting is not as bad as smoking. Nina Bascon will tell us why.
Sitting down has a bad reputation. A sedentary lifestyle has been linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. But it may not be quite as bad for as we thought. A study by Australia's University of Sydney has found that inactivity alone does not lead to a higher incidence of diabetes.
Lifestyle has many components. It's not all about sitting. For a person who does a lot of exercise, perhaps sitting is of secondary importance.
The researchers tracked almost 5,000 middle-aged men over 13 years and looked at how often they spent sitting at work, during leisure time, and watching TV. They found no link between sitting at work or at home and an increased risk of developing diabetes, and only a weak link between television watching and diabetes, which they put down to social factors like poorer mental health or greater snacking. The study group of Londoners were on the move a lot, which researchers say could have made all the difference.
We should not forget that the sample of our study were a group of office workers who were very physically active. They were walking for approximately 45 minutes per day. This is a lot of walking. And it is perhaps that this high level of physical activity protected them against diabetes, and this is why sitting seemed to matter less.
So even sedentary office workers can counteract the health risks of their jobs by moving more. Nina Bascon, UNTV News and Rescue, Melbourne, Australia.
India gears up for a second test against Australia in a cricket match. Meanwhile, an Olympian pentathlon athlete is stripped of her 2008 Beijing Olympics bronze medal. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
In pentathlon, Victoria Tereshchuk fails a doping test and has been stripped of the bronze medal she won in the women's modern pentathlon at the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, says the International Olympic Committee, or IOC. Based on a retest, anabolic steroid turinabol was discovered in the 35-year-old Ukrainian sample. Tereshchuk, a world champion in 2011, could face further sanctions, including a ban imposed by the sport's governing body. Anastasia Prokopenko of Belarus, who finished fourth in Beijing, is next in line for the bronze medal. In soccer, Luis Enrique of Barcelona will leave his post as the Spanish La Liga champions coach at the end of the season as his contract expires. Enrique made the announcement at a news conference after Barca thrashed Sporting Gijón 6-1 at the Nou Camp to keep up their bid for a third league title. The Spanish former professional footballer has won 2 Liga titles, 2 Kings Cups, and the 2015 Champions League since succeeding Gerardo Martino in 2014. And in cricket, the world number 1 India looks forward to a fresh start against Australia after a defeat at the opening test, says opening batsman Murali Vijay.
So I think it's going to be a good challenge for us as a team, and it's going to test our characters, and that's what we are playing cricket for, and hopefully we can play the way we have to play and we have played before. So
at the opening test, Australia won by 333 runs. The second test between India and Australia begins at Bengaluru on Saturday, March 4. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
The BOC Transformers and the Judiciary Magistrates will meet on Sunday on the UNTV Hard Court. Bernard Daddies will tell us why.
That pick, Aquino dives to the basket. Sa anim, nahiwa na sa kalahati.
A match will determine which team will claim the third place this season in the League of Public Servants, the UNTV Cup. Two-time champion Judiciary Magistrates and rookie team BOC Transformers will head to the hardcore battle, not just to give honor for their teams, but also for the sake of public service. A 1 million pesos cash prize awaits the winner in this match, while $500,000 pesos is in store for the losing team, which will be hailed as the fourth placer. The cash prizes will be donated to each team's chosen beneficiaries. Meanwhile, it is not only the players and the UNTV Cup fans who are preparing for this much-awaited hoop action. Even Bureau of Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faildon is thrilled for reaching this level of the league and vows a better BOC Transformers in the next season.
The purpose is not just to bring a better league and competition to the viewing public. Yan naman ang gusto natin. And of course, to represent what's the best in public service through those teams. Meaning, if you upgrade your team, you're also upgrading your public service. Yun naman yung ini-equate ng ating liga. So, mag-upgrade din kami. You will see a better Transformer team by next year.
Furthermore, Commissioner Faildon supports the league, of which a heart for public service and the advocacy it upholds.
Some players may have been disgruntled the way some officiating has done, but personally, I believe no league will ever do that. Kasi sisirain mo yung sarili mong league. So as far as the Bureau of Customs, as far as I'm concerned, the league was conducted its best. So we'll continue to participate, encourage everyone to participate and support the activities of the UNTV Cup.
Watch out for the Transformers Magic's hardcourt collision at the Pasig City Sports Center on Sunday, March 5 at 3 p.m. to be aired live on UNTV with live streaming via UNTVweb.com. Bernard Daddies for the UNTV Cup Season 5.
Those are the reasons behind the news, March 2, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.